hello everyone. Philosopher Stoner 777 here. So a user on my last video that I made, Veritas something said to change my name, and it's something that I had talked about in previous videos about changing my name, but I just couldn't figure out how to do it. So I've changed my name, I researched it, I figured out how to do it. They left a comment giving me like sort of basic instructions, and I looked into it, and it wasn't that hard to do. Unfortunately though, I can't change my email that's linked with this account. That name is always going to be Philosopher Stoner 666, and it's linked to this account. But I can change the basic name, so I didn't really radically change it. I'm still leaving Stoner in there. I even know of, right-wing Christian fundamentalist guys that occasionally use cannabis. So, there's nothing wrong with being a stoner. Like all things in moderation, of course. I don't really use as much as I used to use, that sort of thing. But yeah, getting rid of the 666, yeah, a good idea. I'm no longer aggressively anti-Christian. Since I'm going to bed and relaxing pretty soon, I figured I'd have a little bit of cannabis, get stoned and make a video. But yeah. So as I was saying, I'm not rebelling even in a childish, juvenile sense against Christianity. It's the more I look into Christianity, there are certain sects, right? Like any religion, there's sects and denominations. Priscillianism, Bogomilism, Manichaeanism, and Catharism were sects of Christianity in the Middle Ages that were anti-procreation. So what's interesting with philosophy, right? You can come to the same fundamental conclusion, but for radically different reasons, for different axioms, different principles. So, right, like there's the voluntary human extinction movement, VEMIT, right? They're opposed to, they want the human race to go extinct, but they're doing it for, Gaia worshiping reasons, environmentalism. They think the animal kingdom should be left alone. But it's just, like I said, it's interesting how you can come to the same conclusion, but for different reasons. So yeah, I'm not radically against Christianity anymore, although I do maintain my atheism, agnosticism, whatever you want to term. But yeah, the whole Satanism thing, the more and more I look into it, into real Satanism, not the juvenile rebellion of, say, Marilyn Manson or Deontward, but the actual symbolism, the actual Thelema religion of Aleister Crowley. They're into a lot of really weird, sick stuff. Now, I'll just say this as a caveat that I personally believe that the more you repress people's sexuality, the more perverted it'll become in the end. Eventually, it'll all be released as sort of pain and anguish. The more sexually frustrated and repressed you are, right? It's like in the Catholic Church. They tell their priests to be celibate, and look what happens. It's full of pedophiles, right? It attracts the wrong sort of person. It not having the sex really does screw with their head. So, but it's interesting though that they made their priests celibate because of that whole, the thread in Christianity, that there's a thread there anyway that's anti-procreation, at least for the enlightened caste of priests. So, I only aggressively pursue this antinatalism, ephilism thing because we have birth control technology. Otherwise, it would be impossible. But now with science, anything's kind of possible. It's all very possible. So anyways, yeah, the actual real religion of Satanism, real Satanism that goes beyond just the stupid bullshit like 666, all that stuff. Thelema, Aleister Crowley. I'm learning more and more interesting things like the sigil of Saturn, the one eye of God, the eye of Horus, the black cube, the black star, all these terms, the star of Remphan. But basically, Aleister Crowley was a pervert. He was a homosexual and probably a pedophile, but he, in his era, you couldn't, it was like the Oscar Wilde problem. You couldn't be outwardly homosexual because it was a crime and you would be killed or whatever. So what he did in his religion is invent a sort of code language. So there's like this one sentence in one of his books, The Book of Lies. It's interesting that it's titled that, The Book of Lies, because literally it's all poetry, but it's all code. It's all code. So like he'll have a sentence, right? He preferred the eye of Horus to the mouth of Isis. What was he really saying? Well, the eye of Horus is the third eye, the eye of the anus, right? So for anal sex. And then he said, yeah, the mouth of Isis is the vagina. So all this sort of thing, that it's code for these weird sexual practices that he was into. Ritual magic and sex magic and all that sort of thing. In the religion, he sort of indirectly, sort of this whole third eye phenomenon, the all-seeing eye of God or the eye of Saturn, they believed that through sodomy or anal sex, and in a ritualistic sense, that it would open the third eye, which is the pineal gland in your brain, and this would enable you to achieve a type of enlightenment. Many people that are the victims or the submissives in a sodomy anal sex thing report seeing a flashing light when it's very severe, and so they argue that this is some kind of an enlightenment. So when they're molesting a kid or they're doing anal sex to a child, they think they're doing the kid a favor. Like I said, it's all religion. It's all weird. And my last video was on the whole Pizzagate subject, and like I said, it's just this bizarre rabbit hole of all this symbolism and terminology, and it's all very sophisticated, and it sort of bothers me because if you took away the weird creepy sex stuff and the motifs of cannibalism and the weird things like the cakes of light, which are the Crowley, his followers and his little cult, they're like cakes that they would bake with semen, blood, feces, all sorts of gross stuff, and they would eat this daily. It's just like, what? Like, so bizarre, so weird. If you took all of that away, the bizarre sex stuff, it'd be interesting to have a conversation with these people, like all the terminology, the symbolism, the sigil of Saturn, the star of Remphan, the all-seeing eye, the symbolism and the language and all of it. It's like I said, it's all very sophisticated and clever and erudite and intellectual and well-read and that sort of problem. It's very problematic to me. So anyways, I think I'm going to entitle this video The Midnight Gospel. So there's this new Netflix series on Netflix called The Midnight Gospel. Off the top of my head, I forget who it's by, but I'm going to put it in the description box down below. The guy that did it, he went on Joe Rogan's podcast and briefly talked about Crowley and the occult. And it's interesting, so in the third episode of this series, I'm watching it, and it's a sort of bizarre, I don't have the means, I can only make videos on my phone, so I'm not going to do like a professional analysis where I actually show little clips and stuff and point to what I'm saying. and all that sort of thing. I'm just going to sort of generally talk about it. Anyways, um, it's like just a bizarre cartoon, and then they're having conversations, and they're talking about, sophisticated, Buddhist meditation and philosophy and art, and they're just having these very intellectual conversations while this bizarre, incredibly bizarre cartoon is playing in the background. The first episode is they're in like a zombie apocalypse thing, and they're talking about, like I said, Buddhist meditation, all sorts of stuff, and it's just very weird. But it really hit me. The third episode, they start talking about Crowley. And then I rewatched it, and I paused in a lot of places, and there's tons of symbolism in this thing. All sorts of things that I've learned about thanks to that channel I mentioned in my previous video, the Open Scroll, and some other blogs and stuff that I've been following. I want one of them to actually do a video and analyze it and break it down, because they know more about it than I do. This is sort of just new reading for me because I'm bored. But anyways, so it's the third episode, right? So the number 3 is significant in occult circles because you have, okay, 12 midnight is known as the witching hour. And then you have 3 a.m. is known as the devil's hour. And then you have this other term for the devil, which is known as Lucifer. And what's that all about? Lucifer means bringer of light. So Lucifer is literally the planet Venus or Mercury or whatever that orbits, that you can, at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you can see Venus in a non-light polluted place, say like up in the North Country. You can see it at that time of day, and that's means, bringer of light. It's right before the sun comes up. So again, 3 is this occult number. So on the third episode, he starts talking about Crowley and the occult. There's, like I said, all sorts of symbolism. The one eye symbolism is predominant. There's a point in that episode, the third episode, towards the end, where the character Clancy, the main character, you can see that the third eye on, like right on his face towards the end. The character wears a witch hat, and like I said, where's this witch hat? Oh yeah, and then there's a lot of colors used as well. The colors purple and orange predominantly. And how is that significant? In the Pizzagate thing, they brought to light this thing called the handkerchief code, which is a code that homosexuals use to signal their sexual proclivities, right? So red means fisting, stuff like that. So orange and purple are colors that represent sodomy or anal sex. So I just found it interesting that a lot of those colors were used in this thing. Like I said, he's talking about Crowley. There's a lot of the one eye symbolism, and I think there's tons of other stuff in it, but I don't, like I said, I don't have that much knowledge on it. Like, I'm not that sophisticated. This is something that I'm just sort of re-getting into and reading and researching about. And like I said, it's just this stuff is all over the place. And it's personally, I believe a lot of this religious stuff is holding us back as a species. So like I said, I'm an atheist, agnostic. Like I can criticize these kooky Christians all day, and the kooky Muslims and the kooky Jews and the kooky, Buddhists. Even though like I identify with a lot of stuff in Buddhism, I can say, yeah, there's parts of it that are, kind of kooky, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, this occult Satanism and this real Satanism, Thelema stuff, is really weird, and it's operating in the shadows, and it's part of their thing to sort of put what they're doing out there, but do it in a symbolic, coded way. So there's all, like I said, all this weird sex stuff. So like personally, like I said, like what consenting adults do behind closed doors is really none of my business. If someone's a homosexual, hey, go for it. But it becomes a problem when, children and stuff have to get involved. And I think a lot of the stuff in the Pizzagate, they were interpreting it as pedophile, but a lot of it was homosexual. And then there's that phenomenon of pederasty, which is homosexual love between an older man and a boy, which was practiced a lot in ancient Greece. Um, so yeah, once children start getting involved, it's a problem. And like I said, I believe all this stuff, whether it's the occult or Christianity or Hinduism or Islam or whatever, all of this stuff holds us back as a species. So this occult stuff, like I said, it's a very insidious effect, and it is impacting on our culture. Right, like Marilyn Manson, I've talked about before, he uses the satanic imagery, the whole goth look. That's the aesthetics. So really, he's not talking about anything that's that controversial or that interesting. But then there's another group that I've talked about before that I actually like, Word, and in their music video, Ugly Boy, there's all sorts of symbolism in it, the Baphomet, the blood writing on the wall. They put in their video, and you have to pause it to see it, the chaos sigil. And they put a sigil, that's called a sigil. It's like a symbol that you can make up. And they are literally putting this energy out into the world and trying to cast a spell. Now, I don't believe in magic per se. Like, I don't believe in a literal god or a literal devil. But there is energy in the world. There's vibrations, there's frequencies of light and sound. And we, as humans, perceive the visible light spectrum. And we don't see the rest. We don't see ultraviolet light. We don't see gamma radiation. We don't see a lot of stuff. So we're only perceiving a narrow frequency. So there's all kinds of energy out there. So I believe that what these, Satanists, and it's again, it's a term it's a hodgepodge of a lot of different things. Satanism. There's this Thelema stuff, and then there's other forms of it, and there's paganism, and there's lots of different spins on it. But anyways, yeah, like Word, they've achieved a fame where they have like 4 million followers on YouTube and Instagram. They've made a couple of $1,000,000. They may just be flirting with it in an artistic sense, but they're putting out an energy into the world and bending the world to their will. Even the artist formerly known as Prince did a thing where he changed his name to a symbol, and that symbol was a sigil, or a witchcraft symbol, right? So he put an energy into the world, and he got results. Like I said, I don't believe in a literal magic, but like I said, these people believe in this stuff. And so, like I said, they are attempting to sort of cast a spell. They are influencing us on a unconscious or subconscious level. So I believe like the show Midnight Gospel is another one of these attempts at sort of trying to cast a sort of spell, for lack of a better term. So yeah, it's something, go watch it on Netflix, The Midnight Gospel. I'm going to put the name in the description with the name of the guys that directed it, and also the Joe Rogan podcast where he talks about Crowley and magic and the occult and stuff. And yeah, this is just stuff to look out for, all the symbolism and all this stuff. These people, whether it's real or not, these people believe it's real. And it is a force in our society. It is an influence in our society. These people exist. They're real. They're weird. They're into all sorts of weird, perverted sex stuff and rituals and art and stuff. And they're, like I said, it's influential in the zeitgeist, the collective body of thought. They have an influence in our culture and in our society, and it's, like I said, it's a kind of energy that they're putting out there, and none of it is really good. Like I said, it's good to be aware of this stuff and to know that it's out there and exists, because like I said, I believe it holds us back as a species. So anyway, yeah, that's probably enough of a video. I'm gonna try to figure out how to make videos where I like do some video editing and like try to put clips in and do all that kind of stuff. But I'm really busy with a lot of stuff. I got a new job with life insurance and another part-time job that involves Bitcoin. So I've been busy training and doing stuff with that. And, I'm doing the whole self-improvement thing. Like I'm reading books about dating. I'm reading books about social skills. I'm reading books about, investing and, um, you know, books about, starting an online business and really focusing on a lot of distractions and things to sort of improve my life. I have my kit that I can leave whenever I feel that things are getting too bad. And, things are getting pretty bad. I read stuff like, I read some articles today of all sorts of food shortages and problems, especially in the developed world, like even food riots and stuff like that, yeah, this is getting pretty ugly. Um, there's channels that I've already mentioned in a few of my previous videos, like Epic Economist and the Atlantis Report and Gerald Salente and all these people talking about all this stuff that's going on. This is a major fiasco, and I just keep sensing that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that even if we reopened and things went back to normal tomorrow, the recovery would take a year or two at least. There's so much debt and damage and stuff. And anyways, that's a separate subject that I might make a separate video on, just about certain things. Like especially I've been looking into this thing called Bill C-15. Anyways, I'm going to do a separate video on it maybe tomorrow night. So yeah, there's definitely lots to talk about. Anyways, this is just food for thought. Look into it. Like I said, go watch this thing, The Midnight Gospel. Check it out. Put in the comments, message me if you think you noticed any particular symbolism or have an insight that you'd like to share with me. I would appreciate it. I like learning about symbolisms and all this stuff and whatever. Like I said, it's a hobby of mine. Anyways, yeah, that's probably enough of a video. Philosopher Stoner 777 out.